Good afternoon, guys. So this today we're gonna be going through Genesis chapter 45, verses 1 through 15, and this is where Joseph's brothers get the big reveal that the man that they've been talking to and taking orders from, and they've eaten in his palace. This is where they get the big reveal that this man is actually the brother that they thought was gone all this time after selling him into slavery. Right? This is when they get revealed that instead of being dead, that he, prospered because of God's plan for him. So here we go, guys. This is Genesis chapter 45, 1 through 15. It's subtitled Joseph Reveals His Identity. Genesis 45, verse 1. Joseph could stand it no longer. There were many people in the room, and he said to his attendants, "Out, all of you." So he was alone with his brothers. When he told them who he was, then he broke down and wept. He wept so loudly the Egyptians could hear him. And word of it quickly carried to Pharaoh's palace. "I am Joseph," he said to his brothers. "Is my father still alive?" But his brothers were speechless. They were stunned to realize that Joseph was standing there in front of them. "Please come closer," he said to them. So they came closer, and he said again, "I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into slavery in Egypt. But don't be upset, and don't be angry with yourselves for selling me to this place. It was God who sent me here ahead of you to preserve your lives. This famine that has ravaged the land for 2 years will last 5 more years, and there will be neither plowing nor harvesting. God has sent me ahead of you to keep you and your families alive, and to preserve many survivors. So it was God who sent me here, not you. And he is the one who made me an advisor to Pharaoh, the manager of his entire palace, and the governor of all Egypt. Now hurry back to my father and tell him, this is what your son Joseph says. God has made me master over all the land of Egypt. So come down to me immediately. You can live in the region of Goshen, where you can be near me with all your children and grandchildren, your flocks and herds, and everything you own. I will take care of you there, for there are still 5 years of famine ahead of us. Otherwise you, your household, and all your animals will starve." Then Joseph added, "Look, you can see for yourselves, and so can my brother Benjamin, that I really am Joseph. Go tell my father that my honored position here in Egypt, of my honored position here in Egypt, Describe to him everything you have seen, and then bring my father here quickly." Weeping with joy, he embraced Benjamin, and Benjamin did the same. Then Joseph kissed each of his brothers and wept over them. And after that, they began talking freely with him. Okay, guys, so that was chapter 45, Genesis, verses 1 through 15, where we see that finally Joseph could no longer keep the facade of this mystery man, right? So I think this part of the scripture is so powerful because it shows two things to me. It shows that one, that by this time Joseph has accepted the fact that it was God's plan for him to be brought into Egypt as a slave. And I think God did that so that when he eventually elevated Joseph to second in command of all of the land of Egypt, he could understand how hard life is for even the slaves of Egypt, right? He made him a slave so that he could understand slaves. You get what I'm getting at? God made Joseph a slave so that when he was elevated to governor of Egypt by Pharaoh, so that he could understand the life that slaves lived, so that, he would know to, I guess, be able to understanding of them and their way of life. And two, it also shows me that with all the resentment that Joseph could have carried even into this moment of identifying himself to his brothers, that at least by this moment he had no more resentment towards them. He tells them, "Hey, look, I am Joseph. I am the one that you sold into slavery." But he even tells them, it was not your plan, but it was God's plan. God sent me here ahead of you so that I may be the one, through God's provisions, to preserve not only your families, by which factory was his family, but also preserve a whole nation, right? Because he tells them, by the time of this conversation, we're already 2 years into the 7-year famine, and he tells them, there's 5 more years of this, right? And so, he tells them, I'm here to not only, preserve your life and all of that, but I'm here to preserve a whole nation, right? And even, he tells them, come closer so that you can see that I am Joseph. He tells them also, once they do realize, hey, this is our brother, he tells them, now go back and get my father, get our father, and tell him this is what your son Joseph says. Come to Egypt, you may live in Goshen which was the most profitable area of Egypt in that time. And he was like, and so that way you may live close to me and I may care for you. And he then goes on to embrace his younger brother Benjamin, weeping, crying, crying tears of joy, I'm sure. And he also weeps with the rest of his brothers, and in that moment, they speak with him freely as if it's just a normal family conversation at that point. But I think what this kind of shows is that, at least for me, is that in order to move forward, you have to let go of all resentment and know that whatever may have happened to you in the past, good, bad, or whatever, that it was part of a bigger plan. Again, Joseph being sent to Egypt, he was sent there by God. It was part of God's bigger plan to preserve Joseph's family through a 7-year time of no food and no water, but also not only preserve his family, but once again preserve a whole nation, right? So you have to know that whatever happens to you now, or whatever has happened to you in the past, or whatever's gonna happen with you in the future, that it's all part of God's bigger plan that we can no longer, that we can't see because we don't know what's ahead. We only know the here and the now, and how we're going to deal with the here and the now. But God knows the past, He knows the here and the now, and He knows what's coming down the road for everyone, right? So there's a saying, you can't see the what is it? You can't see the forest from the trees or something like that. In other words, you can't see the bigger picture when you're stuck in the frame of it. But God sees everything. And two, if you're somebody who is holding guilt for something you may have done to hurt someone else at an earlier point in earlier life because of jealousy, or maybe you wanted the promotion and someone else got that promotion instead of you, and you felt like you deserved it more than them, so maybe you did something to sabotage them, or I don't know. I'm just telling out a scenario. It might be a different scenario. It might not be that someone got the promotion that you felt like you deserved. It might be something else. But essentially, he's saying here, like, if you're feeling guilty about something you did to someone else, you need to learn to forgive yourself, right? Because how can you move forward if you're always mentally stuck in the past, right? So, again, I think the two biggest things to remember here is that whatever has happened to you in the past, good, bad, or otherwise, it's all part of God's bigger plan, and we have to understand that. And two, if there's something that you've done in your past to hurt someone else out of jealousy or whatever the case might be, like it was with Joseph's brothers when they sold him into slavery, you have to forgive yourself for that transgression. We can't move forward if we are always stuck in the past. So please, I ask that whatever it is that you're holding on to, whatever guilt you're holding on to, let it go and give it to Him, because it doesn't serve you as you try to advance your life today. Alright guys, so that's my video for today. That's Genesis 45 verses 1 to 15. We'll be picking up in verse 16 tomorrow. And I already checked it. It's 16 to 28 tomorrow. So we'll be picking that up. Anyway, I want to pray us out and, let us get about our way. Dear Father, I want to thank you, one, for waking all of us up this morning. I want to thank you that you're using me as a vessel through the means of YouTube videos to get your message out. And I want to thank you that in this part of Joseph's story, you're showing us two very important things. You're showing us, one, that whatever may have happened to us in our past, good, bad, or otherwise, it's all part of your bigger plan for us. And I pray that we learn to understand that and we learn to accept it. Father, and I also want to think that the other thing that you're showing us is that if there's any guilt that we're holding on to from our past, that we have to learn to let it go for the sake of our futures, sake of our presence and our futures, actually, Father. And I just thank you for those two very important lessons in this part of Joseph's story. Father, I want to thank you that you give us, every morning you give us a chance to start anew. I want to thank you that you give us that. I also want to thank you that you give us the ability to choose you every morning, Father. Father, I just want to pray also that if there's someone out there that, maybe they haven't stumbled upon these YouTube videos, but maybe they're going to stumble upon them later, that they get something out of it, Father. Let them understand, what I'm trying to, what words you want them to understand, and let my mouth be a vessel for your word, for everyone who might hear this now, or months, years from now, Father. And I just want to thank you for amazing little stories like this throughout the Bible that we can always learn from. I want to thank you that we're always learning and that we're never too old to not learn something new. In your Son's name I pray, amen. Alright guys, so see you guys again tomorrow. And I'll be posting this video shortly. Again, like, subscribe, comment, and if there's anyone that you think could get something out of these videos, maybe they're a Christian, but they've strayed away from God, or maybe they're not a Christian, but this can be the tool that opens that door for them. Please share this content, And again, I'm also going to be looking to make other content on this channel, so if there's anything else that you guys want me to cover or think I should cover, please let me know. Thanks and have a great day, guys.